Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Meetup in Bellabel Park is a word jumble that doesn't clearly describe what this re-release actually is. Mario Wonder version 2.0. It's everything a deluxe version should be, offering elegant solutions that fix the original's biggest pain points, a challenging lineup of missions and boss battles that are meaningfully different than the base game, and a mountain of cooperative and competitive minigames that recontextualize Wonder's brilliant platforming in clever ways. All while improved graphics and performance make its gorgeous art style pop even more than before. Whether you're returning to the Flower Kingdom or visiting for the first time, this edition makes Wonder even more of a must-have. Before we go any further, let me lay out exactly what I'm reviewing here. Since the new stuff in Wonder's Nintendo Switch 2 Edition is available either as a $20 upgrade pack for existing owners, or as part of the full $80 Switch 2 package, that's the only content I'm discussing and scoring here. Here's what we said about the base game back in 2023.
In every other way other than advanced challenges, Wonder feels like a 21st century successor to Super Mario World, and I'm not sure I can give it a higher compliment than that.
3 years later, Wonder remains an absolute joy to play. Mario has never looked or felt better to control in 2 dimensions, and its incredible foundation means that any new content you stack on top is elevated by the already excellent controls and enchanting art design. Bellabel Park starts by introducing the new Koopaling boss battles, which are a huge highlight. It feels like Nintendo heard the widespread complaints about Wonder's repetitive, overly simplistic Bowser Jr. fights and decided to go harder than ever before. I think this is the best lineup of bosses in any 2D Mario game. Each of the 7 Koopalings has been gifted Wonder Power from Bowser, leading to epic battles that are significantly more creative than the traditional jump on their head 3 times setup. Wendy gets transformed into a large Cheep Cheep and summons dozens of enemies through portals, while Morton turns into an enormous puppet and attacks you from the level's background. These fights felt like a chance to show off my skills in a way the main game never reached, and that extends to badge selection too. It was actually helpful to consider which ability I should bring into the fight, like equipping the crouching high jump to reach Morton's ropes faster. Later, you'll unlock even tougher versions of each Koopaling battle. I can't even remember the last time a 2D Mario boss took me multiple tries, but some of these ones did. These harder fights are found at the Toad Brigade training camp, which has more than 70 bite-sized challenges to tackle either on your own or with friends. Some ask you to collect coins or defeat enemies before time runs out, while my favorites force you to clear a course without touching any enemies, sometimes requiring you to do so with a specific badge equipped. Most of the missions are still relatively easy, but the final third or so you unlock are tougher than pretty much anything in base Wonder, which was a very welcome challenge. I love how these courses reuse levels, power-ups, badges, and enemies in brand new ways. It was genuinely tense to use my parachute cap to barely glide around an endless horde of floating bloomps. And I let out a huge sigh of relief after finally clearing a stage where I needed to bounce off these shells spaced out in the lava to beat the timer.
Oh, yeah!
There's also an entirely new power-up, Flower Mario, which comes with a Yoshi-like flutter and a projectile that Mario launches straight upwards. Eliminating enemies from below is a game-changer, and several trials make use of this great ability, which fits perfectly alongside the classics. This is exactly what I want out of Endgame Mario, stages that forgo exploration and spectacle in favor of white-knuckle platforming that demands expert timing and precision. My only complaint here is that I could have gone for 100 more. It took me about 6 hours to 100% the training camp, and I still feel like there's plenty of room to experiment with levels that force me to use a specific badge, or challenge me to figure out the best one for a given situation. Bellabel Park introduces new dual badges that combine 2 abilities, but there were only a small handful of missions that actually made me use them, like this one where I was both invisible and unable to stop jumping. There's so much untapped potential, and it's a shame that this DLC introduces even more badges but still falls into the same trap Wonder did by failing to get the most possible out of them. With that said, there's no shortage of fun stuff to do, especially when you get a few friends together. Attraction Central houses tons of local and online multiplayer modes, and there are several clever platforming ideas crammed into this party game wrapper. I was most impressed with the local co-op minigames, which take place in familiar levels but completely change your objective, most of which lead to great opportunities for communication and teamwork. One highlight is jump count, where your group is given a total number of jumps to hit by the end of the level, but your count is hidden, meaning everyone has to keep track of their own while trying to jump as little as possible to make sure you don't collectively overshoot. I also love Donut Block Maker, where some teammates make temporary platforms for the rest of the team to move across, which led to lots of hilarious deaths and last-second saves. Each minigame has a surprising amount of compatible levels too. Jump Count alone has 10 different stages to complete, divided across 3 difficulty levels. There are no new locations in Bellabel Park, but I love how much mileage Nintendo gets out of its pre-existing toy box just by turning the rules on their head. Without question, my favorite co-op game is Fly Free Captain Toad. The captain famously can't jump, so he holds his bird friend Plucky above his head to jump for him. In practice, this means one player moves left and right as Toad, while the other controls the jumping, turning simple levels into terrifying gauntlets that test your communication. It's like an official version of IGN's Linked Together series from back in the day.
There you go. Whoa!
Oh!
Why did you do that twice,
You
dude?
jumped! I am not the jump!
The competitive minigames don't fare quite as well, sadly. They're mostly basic battle games you'd see in something like Mario Party, where you try to collect the most coins or outlast your opponents in a survival gauntlet. They aren't bad, just not nearly as inspired as the cooperative games. The best one is Phanto Tag, a game of hide and seek where you can disguise yourself as everyday Mario objects while the seekers use clues to find the fakers. It led to fun strategizing about where to blend into the background, but besides that one, I could feel my group starting to get restless as we worked our way through all of the fairly shallow attractions. The same can be said of the online multiplayer modes, which are mostly made up of races on vehicles like propeller flowers or roller skates. Racing 11 ghosts you can't interact with in what essentially ends up feeling like a time trial doesn't stay fresh for very long. Online play is very limited. You can only try these attractions with friends, and only one person per console can join, so it just doesn't feel worth it. That's it for the major content additions, but I have to tell you about some awesome changes to the main campaign that may seem minor at first, but actually make a huge difference. There are key upgrades that remove the local multiplayer friction that could previously keep a group from enjoying Wonder to the fullest. First, you can now zoom the camera out in local multiplayer for a much wider shot in most levels. At times, Wonder's handcrafted challenges feel designed for solo play, and things could get overly chaotic with 4 elephants on screen. Zooming out makes an instant difference, with the added breathing room giving beginners a better chance to keep up, and providing a cleaner look for everyone to decipher the level ahead. And that's not all. I'm staging some of the scenes you're about to see by using 2 controllers by myself, Sakurai style, just to make it very clear what's happening. But these types of moments happen all the time in normal co-op play. In the original, the camera would constantly center on different players depending on factors like who died last. This often led to scenarios where a less experienced person was in control of the pace for the entire party, which wasn't ideal. Now, you can set the camera to always focus on player 1 when they're alive, which is a far more natural choice, especially for parents playing with younger gamers. Previously, when someone got cut off the screen and fell behind, they'd turn into a ghost that someone else would have to go out of their way to revive. In this edition, you can choose to have off-screen characters instantly warp back to player 1 and seamlessly keep playing. These new options feel essential. Wonder also looks and runs even better on Nintendo's more powerful hardware. It stays at a locked 60 FPS, even in moments that used to cause frame rate trouble, like this underwater boss fight, which is now flawless on Switch 2. The 4K resolution while docked is also a noticeable improvement. Wonder always looked awesome, but the Flower Kingdom's vibrant areas and Mario's delightful expressions draw me in even more than they used to. The campaign throws in a few fun Easter eggs to find too, which just makes it even more delightful to revisit. Super Mario Bros. Wonder's Switch 2 edition should be the blueprint moving forward for these enhanced re-releases. It sands off the rough edges of the original version while adding a fantastic lineup of boss battles, endgame challenges, and cooperative levels that each make use of Wonder's excellent platforming in entirely different ways. The local and online competitive minigames are pretty bland, and I wish it had gone just a bit further in getting the most out of its exciting new dual badge idea. But the rest of this expansion is so inspired that it more than makes up for any shortcomings. Whether you're planning to revisit Super Mario Bros. Wonder or pick it up for the first time, this is clearly the definitive way to play. For more from Mario and Friends on Switch 2, check out my reviews of Mario Tennis Fever or the far messier Switch 2 edition of Super Mario Party Jamboree. And check out Nintendo Voice Chat, the weekly Nintendo podcast I host here at IGN, over on the IGN Games YouTube channel or your favorite podcast app. And for everything else, stick with IGN.